Hey Michael, so you're asking about getting your 5K time down to 21 minutes, and you said you're at 22:30 right now. And honestly, it doesn't matter what your time goal is. You got to do the same thing whether you're running a 28-minute 5K or an 18-minute 5K. You need to train well, train consistently. You need to get proper nutrition, sleep, do some general strength and mobility every day. If you're not following a good, consistent training schedule, you need to follow a 5K training schedule. And the best 5K schedule for you is going to be the one that fits your fitness abilities and your life, work, education schedule best. And the most important thing is to don't focus so much on the actual goal pace. You just got to put in the training and be patient. So what I typically do is about 90 minutes is when I will start thinking about taking fluids or calories with me during running. Ideally, I just pack a couple gels in a spy belt and stop at water fountains along the way. So there's a water fountain 4 miles away, five if I do a little extra loop. And that's perfect because if I did a 16 miler last Sunday, I think, and the water fountain's at 4. So then if I keep going 8 out, come back, it's at 12 again. That's perfect. So I can take a gel at mile 4 with water, take a gel at mile 12 with water, and that's a pretty good interval. So 90 minutes if it's a regular run is when I'll do that. If it's extra warm, I'll carry a bottle with me and refill it at fountains along the way. Hey, so you're asking how safe it is to run when there's lightning, and I'll run through basically any type of weather, but lightning is the one that I really avoid and I really recommend avoiding. And I used to really not care, like, oh, there's lightning, whatever, blah blah blah. But a few years ago, a local cross country runner got struck and killed by lightning, and it's rare, but runners get hit by lightning once in a while. And now after this happened, it kind of, you know, made me realize that lightning isn't like snow or rain or whatever that you can deal with, you can dress for, but like lightning it'll kill you. And it's the one thing I really don't recommend running around or through. So yeah, I avoid lightning. Hey, so rolling is when you have a roller. This is a homemade one out of PVC pipe, old race shirts, and duct tape. And it's basically a form of self-massage where you roll out your muscles, and you can calves are the primary targets for rolling, but you can do your shin, your hamstrings, your glutes, your quads. You can also use balls and just kind of sit on it. This one's a little small for this, and just kind of work the ball in the muscle like that. You can go like this and kind of just put some pressure. So what I like to do is mainly, with my calves especially, lift my butt off the ground, spell the alphabet with my feet, and move it up and down. Hey, so when it comes to ultra running and training for an ultra marathon, anything over 26.2 miles, the biggest misconception and the first thing that came to my mind when you asked for advice is that just because you're training for a longer distance event doesn't mean you necessarily have to run more in training. Most people are running as much as they can run during training, whatever, regardless of what is holding them back. It could be that their fitness level, it could be their work life or school schedule, whatever it is. That if you're only running 30 miles a week and that's as much as you can run for whatever reason, then you're only going to run 30 miles a week, and that's super. So don't stress that because you're now suddenly training for a longer event, you need to run more. You can only run what you can run. All right, so when we're talking about nutrition, before intra, after long runs, before, I usually just go with a couple hundred calories. A bagel is super easy. A piece of fruit or a little muffin that they have is good. Intra, gels, hydration, 200 calories per hour. Post, milk is super easy. Just chug a glass of milk after a long run. That's super easy. And then have a meal 1 to 2 hours later. If you've been eating throughout the day and this is a afternoon, evening hard or long run, then nutrition around the run isn't super important because you've been eating. But if it's a morning run, then it's pretty important to focus a little more on the recovery or on the nutrition as a tool for the run. Okay, so running podcasts, Ultra Runner Podcast, Trail Runner Nation, Jay Johnson, Runners Connect, Ginger Runner might have a podcast. Um, Gosh, there's a lot of running podcasts out there. Marathon Talk is a good one. Gosh, I think that's all that pops into my head right away. So yeah, check those out. Jay Johnson, Runners Connect, Ultra Runner Podcast, Trail Runner Nation, um, Marathon Talk. I think if I didn't say that one or if I said it only once. But yeah, there's a few podcasts. Check those out. Oh, if you want a history one, if you're a history buff, check out, what's that really good history podcast? Hardcore History. Super long, but super well done podcast if you're a history buff. Hey, Karen, so that's a really good question. Typically, it is recommended to start races slow, easy, relaxed. But the beginning of your race is downhill. So what's the proper protocol? And in this case, I would run more by perceived effort than I would actual pace. So yes, you will run the first bit faster because you are running downhill. But that doesn't mean you should run it harder. You see the difference? You're running faster but not harder. So when you do hit the uphill after the initial first downhill segment, you will have preserved your stamina. You'll be ahead of pace, but it wouldn't have been harder than otherwise because it was downhill, but you had that stamina to run well uphill. So doing a half marathon during marathon training can be super helpful to kind of gauge your fitness level. If you can run a half marathon in X time, you should be able to do a full marathon in that time times 2.1. But there's a danger in running a tune-up race too fast, too hard. So be very mindful that if you run the half marathon at best effort, it could take a couple weeks to recover and get back into the swing of good real training. So I usually typically recommend my athletes maybe incorporate the warm-up into the first couple miles of the tune-up half marathon and don't really push it until the last third of the distance, just so you're under control a little bit during the event. Okay, so I had somebody message me asking about splitting up a run and if it's still beneficial. And the answer is yes, but it's a different kind of benefit. So when you do a single 10-mile run, for example, there are certain benefits that come from that. They're typically slower. It's one single time on your feet. Everything from improving your fat burning capabilities, your glycogen storage capabilities, mitochondria levels, muscle fiber recruitment, your running form, blah, 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 blah. But breaking up a run gives your body 2 moments of stimulation for adaptation throughout the day. So that's also very good. I typically do a little bit longer in the morning and a little bit shorter in the afternoon or evening, but that running on tired legs or not super fresh legs in the evening is good. It's beneficial. So both are good, but don't stick to one or the other. So the nice thing about double days, you split up your 20-miler, is that it gives your body 2 instances of stimulation for adaptation that day. So while one 20-miler is nice, 20 miles split over 2 runs is also nice because that second run is maybe run with a little bit of a induced a little bit of fatigue on the legs, which is good. Running on tired legs is good. You just have to overall give your body that opportunity to regenerate and adapt. But single day running on tired legs at an easy, nice pace is good. That's a nice stimulation for adaptation, and that's what we're going for. So don't make a habit of shortening or cutting your long runs in half, but doing a double day once in a while can be a really good kickstart for some really good fitness gains. All right, so you have a half marathon next week, and you're asking about tapering advice. So this is super individualized, and advice is really hard to give because it depends so much on how you're feeling and how much you're running. But I typically like to reduce my easy running by at least 50% and keep the higher quality, keep some strides in there if you've been doing harder running. Do a little bit of harder running so your the percentage that week of harder, higher quality running will go up, but your easy running will go down. So that kind of keeps the legs sharp. It keeps them neuromuscularly fresh. But because your total running volume is going down, you're still peaking and your fitness is still going up.